Right, it's Sunday night. This is the state of the painting so far. I'll do a quick talk through. You'll see there's quite a lot of changes taking place. Here, at the top, you can see a figure. That's Uranus pushing the Hecaton Kyries back into Gaia's womb, and there behind him is Kronos with the scythe or the sickle of adamantine ready to cut off his private parts and throw them into the sea. The idea is that when he does throw them into the sea, they'll end up here, over here. I did sort of sketch in something, a figure of a young beauty who will be Aphrodite, but couldn't quite get that right, so that's been abandoned. I quite like this way of doing it. It goes back to an older way of painting that I've been using for many years. And it sort of puts it in a different dimension. It takes it into the realm of the, I don't know, would you say, God's elemental forces, elemental powers that surround our universe, the one man lives in, and were, and much of it still is, unknown to us, and outside our understanding. So these powers and forces are, in Greek mythology, represented as these extraordinary creatures. The Hecaton Kyries, for example, is a child born of Uranus and Gaia, but was so repugnant to him he thrust it back in the womb, as I've said many times. It seems to be a central feature of the whole story, because that act caused Gaia so much anguish that she brought about his castration, and eventually of Kronos, who died in the same way, or not who died, but who failed as a god of the universe for the same reason, really, that he, by eating all his children, he was damming up some force, and Zeus managed to depose that. So there we are. So there's the figure of Zeus still central to the painting. I've done a little work behind trying to get the sense of the sun falling on the area behind the chorus in the theatre. I'm sort of imagining that that's up in the Pnyx above Athens. I used to live there. I often used to park my van. When I lived in Athens, I lived in a camper van, a Volkswagen camper van. And up on the Pnyx, there was a nice car park, and I'd go up there at night, and I'd sleep the night there. When I woke in the morning, I'd have that view of the Acropolis, looking pearly pink. It was extraordinary. The stone that the Acropolis is built of, it's pink. I must paint it tomorrow in that sort of pink. This painting is full of personal allusions. That picture of Athena, of course, is imaginary, and I shall have to fade it away. I'm beginning to put a kind of bedclothes falling down over beside Ovid. And there's his arm, Ovid's arm, holding a pen now. That's coming in. Now down on this side, I've added another figure, because this outer ring and this inner ring are all concerned with the times before, the the gods. And that actually is a figure after the great fight between the gods and the Titans. That's Atlas, and he's holding up the sky. That's his role from now onwards, until he finally petrifies, there's another Greek word, into the Atlas Mountains in North Africa, which holds up the mountains of Africa. So that's on that side, and on the other side of the painting will be this figure of Aphrodite, I think. Oh yes, and down on this corner, a little bit more work has gone on. Down on this corner is, I think it's called Tartarus. It's the deep underworld of the Greek story. And finally, at the end of the war, when Zeus was very grateful for the assistance of the Hecatontiri, these terrible creatures that have got 50 heads and 100 arms and have immense power, especially in throwing projectiles, which is what defeated the Titans. He gave them the gateway to the underworld, as it were, the deepest of the underworlds, Tartarus. And they are now guarding the gates of Tartarus, these terrible creatures. I'm trying to sort of come up with an idea of all these heads together and these arms coming up through the heads. But that's just the beginning to that idea. I think that's about it, as far as we've got so far. So there we are. I do need to find a place for Dionysus. He's got to come in through there somewhere. But he's got to come in through all of it, as if from outside, because he does do that. He isn't part of the pantheon, it seems, by Dionysus, but he's a major figure in Greek mythology, and he even was the reason for the festival at Athens, which led to the development of theatre, the festival of Dionysus. So this Dionysus, who was connected, of course, with the cult of wine and the creation of the ecstasy. Ecstasy is a Greek word meaning outside one's stasis, outside one's normal way of being, and that was provoked by intoxication, by using wine, which was thought to take man closer to God. This is an idea that Nietzsche liked very much. It's funny how these things link up. So I'll have to put in somehow the figure of Dionysus or Bacchus or Pan, or all these are all related figures depending on what culture we're speaking of. And that will be added as soon as I get the time.